Greetings, fellow targeted individuals. When I moved here to Florida from Texas, I never thought that I would be targeted again. And I would love to come to this spot because in the background, you may be able to see a little bit of water there. It's a beautiful lake, so I would park my car, enjoy the sunset, bring a bottle of water, a sandwich, chill for like 15 minutes, take some deep breaths, enjoy the ambiance, then I would leave. So the day that I was there was a black vehicle about 100 yards to the left of me on a different side of this parking lot. And then on the right side of this parking lot where I was at, I noticed a cop with a blue outfit and a black bulletproof vest right here. And when I pulled out my camera, he started running. I found that weird. In this car here, there was no one in it. There's a house to the right, and the guy's parking lot was full of guests, so one of the guests parked there. So it's just pretty much me and this lady that kept showing up. Her name is Randy Bram. She used to work for Meta Holdings, Inc. Incorporated. And she has a black BMW. You can find more information about her if you go to my Facebook page. You have to log in and you click on a Google Drive link. Just type up Parks in the search bar. You should be able to find it. Parks in Florida, something like that. And there's a folder that shares her tag number, her information. So it didn't matter if I would go at 9:12 in the morning to walk a mile, 11:15. The next day, 4:19, she would show up seconds later. I found it to be very strange. So when I go to police, I told them that I was having some odd experiences. After that encounter with the cop, I had a guy that was Mexican throw a gang sign at me while I'm biking. I'm noticing Stingray technology tracking on my phone, but I didn't mention that. I just kept it short and simple, that this woman is observing me and she's showing up as I do, and he said that she's probably a private investigator. It's a civil matter. I can't get involved. He made a one-page sentence report, and I had told it was a black, I don't like using the word black, but I should say African-American. He was working at the front desk. He was wearing a police uniform, and he called in a police officer. Well, that same police officer that took that report, it's the first report that I filed in Florida at that time. That year was the only one in 2000. I'm 100% sure he's the same cop that I seen duck down behind that fence. I'm 100% sure. So, I didn't go to the police department again until 2003, recently, just a few weeks ago, because I was noticing some surveillance at the park with the people honking horns at me. That it didn't matter if I'm wearing a hat that covers my sides, if I have the darkest tint in Florida. I've had 3 different vehicles, and it would happen all the time. Multiple cars honking horns at me while I'm walking. My relatives would be like, "What the heck is this? Do these people know you?" And then when I would see these people, they were like, "I never seen you in my life." And I would say, "Well, I recorded you doing this. Why are you doing this?" And they would just deny it. And they would do it again. So I had told my cousin in Texas this was happening, and one day I'm talking to him on the phone and it even happened. The person flicked me off. I've had people throw trash towards me. Stop their car and just throw trash towards me. So I shared this cop the second time in 2003, a different cop, information, and the report is inaccurate. Doesn't even have that information. He even said he was going to take a picture of the tag, and it starts with DHS. So, let me go down here. Yesterday, I went to Lakeland, Florida, just to get out the house. I was looking for some foam that I can use this product. I don't know if it's called Nixon, like Nixxion, and a bunch of red cars pulled in. And this lady told me, "Get out of town." So I always wondered about these groups because I've noticed this in West Palm Beach. In Estes, Florida, I've been harassed by Marines. It's right next door to Tavares. I don't know if the town is ran by Marines and CIA, but really interesting. So I've been harassed upon arrival in different communities. I'm going to share a little bit about Eagle Security here in a moment, because you don't have to root your phone and use like Kingo Root and get malware. This is a great program. I'm going to explain how to use that in a minute. Let me see what else I have here. Bear with me one moment. I want to check this book out. I don't believe in harassing people, but I want to see if there's anything in that book that mentions gang stalking. A great book to read is Cause Stalking. You may find it on Amazon. So, in 2003, I had a very weird experience. I go to buy pizza. They told me it would take 20 minutes, so I decided to go to a liquor store to buy a bottle of wine, of red Argentina wine, and some people in a black SUV came in. They didn't look at anything, and they just stood there staring at me. When I exited, they exited, and I go back to the pizza place to pick up my large pizza, and these people get out of their vehicle, duck down, and squat, and stare at my tag. I'm looking right at them through my rearview mirror. So I go in to get food, and this guy goes, psh, and he walks out really quick. He's walking in as I do. He doesn't buy nothing, and then he walks out really fast, and he leaves. That's the reason why cops can't catch these people, because they operate so quickly, and that if cops were to literally follow you all day long, that would be very annoying and disturbing and somewhat illegal. So that's why these gang stalkers get away with it, because they do things in a very subtle manner, and they do it repetitively for years, state by state, in a very clandestine manner through the utilization of outsourcing. So I go back to this place and I buy some stuff at a store, and I figured I'll just go ahead and share with people an illustration of where I parked.
20 minutes later, come back and pick it up. So I'm here for a few minutes. I get back in my vehicle. I'm going to go somewhere else. This was taken on December 18th, 2022. When we speed it up, I get pulled over by the police. Let me go ahead and pause it to speed it up more so you can actually see this area. So as I'm getting right here...
Let me pause it for a second. So when I get there, and it looks just like the same exact cop that I dealt with in the year 2000, and I had got out of my vehicle to put my bags in my trunk, and I didn't notice anyone around. That's a cop. And all of a sudden, this cop gets behind me and puts his police lights on. Now, mind you, now I have the darkest tent in the state of Florida that they allow legally. And I also have multiple disc bulges. I have a messed up back and a messed up neck. So sometimes I drive with one hand. And I was driving like at 4 to 5 miles an hour, driving pretty slow. And I wasn't speeding at all. And he told me to put both hands on the steering wheel. So I found it weird that I'm there to buy some stuff and then make a quick video, it's not noticeable, of my experience. And guess what happens? Check this out.
Stopping. And you're going to notice the people right here. My camera kind of stops for a second. It's pretty weird.
They're all looking at me. You know why?
Right here on the right.
The cop puts his lights on.
They glance back again. There's a cop next to me. He's going to pass around me in a minute.
Now he pulls up. He puts his lights on, then he pulls up on the side of me. And then you'll see him leave here in a moment.
He puts on his lights, and there he is. He tells me,
you see the cop?
Put both hands on the steering wheel. Well, this is what's really interesting. Is how did he know that I was driving with him?
But it was just like that, very, very quick. And I have another video, and it's right next door. It's like a town, like not even, it's like literally on the border of the town that I live on. Like a couple hundred yards away is a different town. And they have a city hall right next door to a Mexican restaurant. And it's not occurring now, but I was being harassed by a neighbor. And as you enter the residential area where I live at, if you look straight ahead, it's the first house straight ahead, not to the left or to the right. It's a 2-story home. There's a family guy and they're veterans. And he has a sticker on his house saying, at his house, the residence is owned by that city. Not the town that I live in, but a different town. That's 100 yards away from where I live at. It's like the border of the town. So I don't know if the guy works for the city, because the people that used to live there worked for the city. For the town. Same thing. But anyways, I just find it all so odd, because I started later on having these encounters where when I would get home, get to the front entrance, a bunch of people wearing blue shirts would come out, one after another. And I believe it's the guy that owns me. So I think it's right when you go into the residential area where I live at. It's, you take a right, and it's a house on the right. It's a 2-story home. It's a white family. I think they live around the second or third home to the left. It may be the second home. Once you go in the residential area, you take a right, and I noticed this guy cutting this guy's grass. It has a sticker that this house is owned by this town. So for a while, anytime I would pass by that area on my e-scooter, I noticed that neighbors would come out wearing all blue. And I started talking to people, and they told me, one guy told me, look, I don't want to cause any problems. This is serious. But he told me that this involves law enforcement. And potentially people on a federal level. And I told him, look, I appreciate you telling me this. So I talked to another guy. He's the guy that has a 2-story house. Once you drive into the residential area where I live at, he's wearing all blue. He told me that he's concerned about his children. He was looking right at me, and he told me we don't have a fence surrounding our property. And that's why we're doing this. I told him I don't appreciate this. I feel like I'm being singled out. And he mentioned he was a Trump supporter, and I told him, well, I am too. And I am. I told him I don't believe in this swamp monster stuff that's going on in our country. So let me see what else I have. It's pretty much all I want to share. Oh, didn't even think about this. So I'm going to go ahead and share it. Now, this lady named Randy Bram, she has a haircut just like the people that I've met that come my way and harassed me and followed me. And it's kind of like this woman's haircut right here. You'll notice that she has a very short, butch type haircut. And I would be followed, and then when I would pull off the road, then they would pass me, or sometimes they would stop. And I would be followed around by elderly people. This occurred in Albuquerque, Texas, and in Florida. And the people would go into restaurants, sit there and just whistle, or stare at me intensely and not eat anything and be drinking water. And they use elderly people a lot. In Texas, they would drop them out of SUVs, and they would go in and tell the people to put my food in a bag. I didn't go to police because I didn't want to make a big deal of it. I figured it would stop. And it's continued on. This was another guy in Albuquerque. He goes in there, he whistles, he sits down, he just stares at me, and he's not even drinking or eating. So for the whole 15 minutes, he sits there just staring at me at a table right in front of me, gawking at me every bite that I eat. And sometimes they may slow down, they may use toggle switches, and they may turn on a left light, and then you may notice the other light turn on. And I have videos about this where they follow you to your house sometimes and they'll harass you. This is in Albuquerque. I have videos for Austin, Texas, and here for Florida. I have videos where you actually see in an area where the houses are $1.2 million or more, 8 cars in a line with one headlight. The probability of an event makes that mathematically impossible for an area as such. It's just not normal. And then you see them turning anywhere a person turns, and then they eventually stop. So they conduct their activities based on plausible deniability. When I sought the FBI's help, hold on one second. I should have answered the call so you guys could hear it, because a lot of times I get these calls from a 267 number, and they will just breathe real heavy and hang up. They never answer the phone. Then when I call back, the number doesn't exist. It's disconnected. So let me see if I have anything else that I want to share. I believe that's pretty much it. Let me share with you guys how to use Eagle Security. I just installed it prior to making this video. So what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to run it. Let me pull off the road here. And you're gonna want to go ahead and, while using the app, I don't like no one being able to access my stuff. Let me see, read phone. You have to, but so that way it can actually GSF, let me put enable. Okay, so let me maybe make sure my location is on. So when you use this app, it'll take about 30 minutes after you start it. You gotta let it connect to cell towers. It'll take a while. So right now, I left Orlando. Excuse me, I gotta get some water here. The Orlando metro area. I apologize about my speech. I'm trying to quit smoking. So I have one of these nicotine pouches in my mouth, which makes it kind of difficult to talk at times. I'm using this product called On. It's O-N, cinnamon flavor. It's pretty good. So while I'm talking, it's moving around my mouth and my tongue at times. So I'm gonna be headed up to this highway to go to Tampa, taking back roads. And I'll have to come back to it in a minute because it's not like, it takes about 30 minutes to fully register. And then after a while, what it'll do is this. It will, let me go to my notepad. Hold on one second, I just pulled off the road again. So let me go to notepad. Okay, let me go to Street Theater. Let me click this. Bear with me one moment, I apologize. Let me click open. Okay, now, sometimes you'll notice this, it'll give you alerts and you want to go through the settings and make sure that you get alerts that go through your phone. Since I'm in an area that doesn't have the best signal right now, as you can see, it's not coming up fast. So it'll come up on your phone, symptoms of wiring detected, and then you click it and it'll show you 85%. Well, that's definitely a stingray. And then you see it says 4G light, it'll share the number. And it just keeps going and going. It's taking a while to load, but it's literally an entire folder full of stuff. And there's times I get hundreds of them a day. So let me see what else I have here I can share. Let me get this right here. I already shared that part. So anyways, it's gonna take a while for this thing to come on. I'm gonna click enable notifications. Right now it's checking the areas, all the cell towers. I wish I could show you guys how to use this thing because there are some functions on here that you can use. And sometimes what it'll do, let me give you an example. Let's say you start seeing a bunch of red lines and you start seeing a stingray next door to your house. Don't assume your neighbor has a stingray device. what the enemy will do is they will spoof locations. So they may show up at 12 to 15 different areas. So you would need 12 to 15 different cars to find these things. Unless you're in a small town, you can actually drive to these locations. And there have been a few times that I have used these devices, and I have noticed that exactly where the location is at, there'd be like a white van, people in the back wearing suits, maybe 2 or 3 vehicles around that vehicle. So it's like a mobile unit. So these operations are mobile. These people drive around, and some of them may have a top secret clearance and work in surrounding areas up to 60 to 120 miles away typically. They'll typically be ex-military, a business owner, or someone with a top secret clearance and a GSA profile. See, a GSA profile database is probably the largest one in the U.S. concerning contractors. So all they have to do is contact that site, say, hey, we have something for you, or get your contact information and drive to your house. Hey, look, we need your assistance. Here's some money. So the CIA can use this, DHS, DOD, a variety of agencies. And you can find yourself being targeted by veterans in your area that are believing that you're a pedophile, a murderer, a child molester, whatever slanderous statements an agency states. And you'll discover that there is no support when you're seeking help. Now it's starting to kick in. So maybe in a minute here, I'll be able to share with you guys how to use this thing. I'm hoping I get a red signal. See, it says wiring probability 15%. When you notice it turns red, that means that it's typically a stingray device. So let me see if I can go on map and see here it shows you. Now when you see this is red, that one of these are red, then and you see a red line connecting to it, you want to zoom in on it and you want to see the location. Now, many cell towers have stingray devices. So when you see a red line, right now it's not red, you want to follow the location, you zoom in. You may have to play around with settings. You see, you can go here to get a general idea. I don't like using that right there. That's pretty much all I want to share. I've been harassed so much. Even yesterday, I'm driving home and I'm going the speed limit, and I'm driving on this road, and the guy has the other lane wide open where he can pass me at any time, and he's flashing his lights. This is what's really weird. He has a car 100% like mine's. He drives up beside me, pulls down his window, and he waves, and then he slows down and gets behind my vehicle again. So they'll do little things to let you know they're watching you. And these people can go to massive lots. They can utilize car lots, and they can just simply charge it to a card, and they'll get money back if they have to stay at a hotel. They may buy stuff and they get money back. I talked to one guy. I told him, look, I'm sick of you. You have followed me to 12 locations within 3 hours and within 30 miles. What is your deal? And we talked, and I'm not going to say everything that occurred, but I had lost my cool. I'm a non-violent person. I'm unarmed, non-combative. But I told him, look, I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. And I demanded information. I told him, you're not going nowhere. You tell me what I want to know and I'll let you leave. I'll move my car. We won't get the cops involved in this. And he told me, he said, look, I get paid money to surveil people. I have a high security clearance, is what he told me. And he said, I got a family to feed. And if someone's being labeled a problem, I have to just go along with that. I have to take the word of the government. So when you have kids to feed, you do what you have to do. And if the government says someone's a problem, we have to follow them and harass them and provoke them. So they try to incite violence out of people which are marginalized, whistleblowers, outspoken, and they try to provoke a person to react violently. And he told me that he always expects to get shot for the activities that he's doing, that he expects that. Because what he's doing is illegal, but since it's done in a very quick manner, he expects to get away with it. So right now I'm in a very rural area, so there's nothing coming up. No cell tower at all. There are certain areas of Polk County, Florida, which you don't get a signal for miles. It's an area some targets may want to look at if they want a piece of land. There's a road called Green Pond Road. I was looking at land out here because it's not too far from Orlando. I don't live in this area. I'm just driving through it because I'm going to go to the beach out in St. Pete. I like taking car drives, getting away from it all in my free time. God bless. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. It's one thing to talk about this, but you have no idea how many times I get harassed, how many times I get followed. It's not schizophrenia. It's not a delusion. It's not paranoia. There are times where I am followed and I am harassed. Surveillance is not about stopping crimes if you're a gang stalking victim, harassed for decades. It's about driving people to insanity, making them sick of life. And then the police, the state attorney, county attorney, they all support and protect these people, even the police that are going along with this. They're complicit. I was going to end this video, but I think there's one more thing I wanted to share. Bear with me one moment. Now, police in New York at one time worked with the CIA. Just a few years ago, it was on the news, discreetly. The FBI ran COINTELPRO, an illegal operation with Department of Justice support. People need to know that the boss of the FBI is Department of Justice in the U.S. The boss of the FBI overseas is Department of State. And the FBI, CIA, they work with Department of State for their targeting operations overseas. And during the Obama administration, I read an article about how he wanted the computers of targets targeted overseas so that way they could not survive and make an income. To destroy every outlet, every way they can make a living. I have left jobs and I have left schools over this. At Congress, they're all, oh, we're into the Constitution. Oh, the FBI this or FBI that. But when it involves a regular citizen, where are they? When you contact them, they're nowhere. They're quiet as a mouse. But when it involves a rich political figure to meet their expectations to get in office, and oh, you know, we got to raise hell. But there's nothing said when it's a regular citizen. They'll spend millions to ensure someone hangs when it involves someone that's rich. But when you're not rich, nothing is said. It just continues. The entrapment continues. The harassment continues. The police are complicit. Most cops are good people. But there's always that one or two police officers in the community that are scumbags, and they'll go along with this. Did you know that this activity has been linked to terrorism and mass shootings and active shooters? Look at almost every school shooting. and they all said they'd been mobbed. I'm against violence. I'm against terrorism. That's why I make these videos. If someone wants to talk to me, I'll be more than happy to share my reports concerning the CIA and FBI where there's proof. But I will need to have some type of protection or support saying, hey, we have information which verifies that police, the FBI, and CIA make false reports and that they falsely use DHS and emergency management resources to flag targets in a community. Not all of them do, but some do. And they also use sheriff's associations. And you'll notice that when you're harassed, a lot of times there's normally an off-duty cop or a sheriff association member nearby. And they use elderly people as a cover for their operations because they haven't been in trouble and they'll be believed. And their goal is to get you to attack them. Don't fall for it. There have been targets which have been committing shootings over this stuff. We have to say no to violence. We have to say no to domestic terrorism. And we have to say no to the FBI's gang stalking program that DOJ supports, along with the CIA and DHS under the false guises of community engagement. This is not a freaking prison. This is supposed to be a country where we're free, not where we have DOD and psychological warfare units like the Northern Command doing targeting. It's sickening.